Let's complete the square to put the quadratic 2x squared minus 5x plus 2 in vertex form. And remember, vertex form looks like this. Ax minus h to the power 2 plus k. The vertex here would be h comma k. That's why we call it vertex form. All right, so the first step, find a, b, and c. So the coefficients of our quadratic. And if we look at this, we see that the leading coefficient is is 2. That's our a. The linear coefficient b is minus 5. Don't forget that minus sign. And c is 2 again. All right, so we got our coefficients. Now we're going to factor out the leading coefficient. So we're going to factor out the a from the quadratic. So we have 2x squared minus 5x plus 2. That's where we're starting. We're going to pull that 2 out. So we're going to put in some parentheses and then divide everything by 2, like so. And then multiply it all by 2 using the distributive property. So we're multiplying by 2 and dividing by 2. It balances out. We haven't changed the value of the expression, but it's going to help us to rewrite it in a more convenient form. So if we simplify these fractions, we get 2, and then 2 over 2 is 1. That leaves x squared minus 5 halves x plus, and then 2 over 2 is 1 again. And now inside the parentheses, we've got x squared by itself. That's why we factored out the a. We like completing the square when x squared is by itself without a coefficient. All right, so next step, we add and subtract b over 2a squared. So whatever b over 2a squared is, we're going to add it inside these parentheses and then subtract it back so it balances out. But by adding it in, we're going to be able to recognize a perfect square pattern that'll help us factor to get this x minus h squared term. So first thing first, we got to figure out what b over 2a is. So b, we said, was negative 5. A is 2. So we end up with negative 5 over 4 to the power 2. All right, so let's add that in and then subtract it back. Continuing where we left off here. So right after this 5 halves x term, I'm going to add in that b over 2a term. So negative 5 over 4 to the power 2. And then I'm going to subtract it to balance things out. And then I'm not going to forget that plus 1 and the closing parenthesis. So this is still equal to the previous line and to the original quadratic because we added it and then subtracted it back, so it balances out. But now we can, in the next step, use this pattern here. We notice that 5 halves, negative 5 halves is 2 times negative 5 fourths, and this is a perfect square in that term. So that's our perfect square pattern. Remember, x squared plus 2b plus b squared, that factors as x plus b squared. So because the linear term is 2 times the square root of the constant term, we have a perfect square there. And then we'll add on the last 2 terms after that. So here's what it looks like when we do that factoring. We've got x plus negative 5 over 4 to the power 2. That's what this pattern up here tells us. And then we've got our minus negative 5 over 4 squared plus 1. So this perfect square there, that's our factorization of the first 3 terms, and we haven't really touched the last 2 terms inside the parentheses. So that was using the perfect square pattern. And now the last step, we're almost done. We got our x minus h squared, we got our a, we just got to figure out what k is, so we're going to simplify a little bit. And we will end up with something in vertex form. So if we distribute here, 2 goes there, and there, and there, and then we add everything up. So we got 2x, and then x plus negative 5/4, same thing as x minus 5/4, power 2 minus 2 times negative 5/4 squared plus 2 times 1. All right, so at this point, I mean, we have something in vertex form. This is the k, or I should include the minus sign there. This whole constant term is the k. Our h is negative 5/4, a is 2. But we could go a little bit further in simplifying and figure out what that constant term is. That k. So if you multiply that out, you're going to find negative 50 over 16, and 2 is the same thing as 32 over 16. So altogether you get negative 18 over 16. Or you could even simplify that a little bit more. X minus 5/4 squared minus 9/8. And this is our vertex form.